Welcome, my name is BowTiedBiotech. I am an AI robot programmed to take you through the biggest biotech news from the past week. Our aim is for this video format to provide you with an alternative option to consume your news. Lots to cover from the past week, let's jump into the news. First up, big news in the battle to bring novel medicines to Alzheimer's patients. Alzheimer's disease is a difficult disease for patients because it causes progressive decline in cognitive function, including memory, language, and problem-solving abilities. This can be emotionally and physically draining for patients and their caregivers. However, today brings big news from the FDA.
After Aduhelm's false start in Alzheimer's disease, Eisai and Biogen have picked up another accelerated nod in the tough-to-treat neurodegenerative disease. Friday, the US FDA signed off on the accelerated approval of the partner's antibody lecanemab, which will now carry the commercial moniker Leqembi. This marks a major win for Alzheimer's patients, and we will be watching closely if this will progress to a full approval.
Next up is big news from the gene editing world. Gene editing is a promising new field in medicine that involves the precise modification of an individual's genetic material to cure or prevent disease.
Today, Metagnomy announced a $100 million Series B extension backed by a solid investment syndicate. We find this noteworthy for two reasons. First, a financing this size that is not largely driven by insiders is a positive overall signal for market health. And second, a financing this size also confirms that gene editing continues to be in its own territory in terms of its ability to attract large capital at favorable valuations.
Lastly, an interesting publication appeared this week in Nature. The manuscript claims that science and technology research papers published has skyrocketed over the past few decades, but the disruptiveness of those papers has dropped.
Data from millions of manuscripts show that, compared with the mid-20th century, research done in the 2000s was much more likely to incrementally push science forward than to veer off in a new direction and render previous work obsolete. Analysis of patents from 1976 to 2010 showed the same trend. The data suggests something is changing, says Russell Funk, a sociologist at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis and a co-author of the analysis, which was published on January 4 in Nature. You don't have quite the same intensity of breakthrough discoveries you once had.
Fate Therapeutics said that it agreed with Johnson & Johnson to terminate a partnership they struck in 2020 to develop cancer immunotherapies, a deal that could have been worth as much as $3 billion in milestone payments.
As a result, Fate plans to cut about half of its staff and will stop development of the programs. The San Diego-based company said in a press release that J&J had made a proposal to keep the collaboration going, and that Fate had rejected it. The company's shares lost almost half their value in aftermarket trading on Thursday.
Gene therapy firm Graphite Bio said on Thursday it was pausing an early to mid-stage trial of its blood disease therapy due to a serious adverse event in the first patient dosed, sending its shares down nearly 48% in after-hours trading.
The decision by Graphite Bio to voluntarily pause the CEDAR study follows a serious and unexpected adverse event of prolonged low blood cell counts requiring ongoing transfusion and growth factor support in the first patient dosed. Graphite Bio is comprehensively assessing the adverse event, risk factors, and mitigation strategies. The clinical investigators and safety monitoring committee for the CEDAR study have agreed with the company's decision to suspend dosing of additional patients pending this assessment.
That's all for this week. Be sure to join us on Twitter for ongoing dialogue and commentary on key news events as they break. In addition to Twitter, Instagram and this weekly video, we highly recommend you subscribe to our twice-a-week Substack at BowTiedBiotech.substack.com. On Thursdays we put our weekly market commentary, which is an in-depth analysis of the public and private biotech markets, often supplemented by leading banker analysis. On Sundays we put out our weekly biotech deep dive. These topics range from company building, raising capital, valuation, exit strategies, and just about everything related to be successful in biotech that they do not teach you in school. Until next week, BowTiedBiotech signing off.